Episode number 4 of the Bezier Games podcast is made possible by our loving families and listeners like you, because we're beholden to no one, but we can be bought. In fact, we're looking for sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor this little podcast, send me an email at david@boardtogethergames. In this episode, the BTG team discuss Silver, Mysterium, Decrypto, and why they burned a copy of Gizmos. They also discuss lying and bluffing in board games, and Gerry says this.
I had the cops called on me at Burger King.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bezier Games podcast. My name is David.
And I'm Gerry.
And I'm Kathy.
And man, oh man, has there been a lot going on.
So much.
Are you guys as swamped as I am these days?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
My gosh. Yeah, Halloween was yesterday. We're recording this on November 1st. And my family really doesn't get into Halloween. No judgment, but we don't really celebrate it, kind of considering the origins of the holiday, I guess would be a good way to describe that. So, and we usually keep it pretty low key. We went over to my parents' house for a few hours and just played some games. It was pretty fun.
That's cool.
Wow, I didn't know you did that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What'd you guys do?
We had more trick-or-treaters than I thought we were going to have. I thought with the cold, since it was really cold, like almost freezing, that we would have very few trick-or-treaters, but we actually had a few more than we had last year, which surprised me. So we had like 46.
Well, that's kind of where I used to live. A similar type of a setup where you're in a subdivision that's pretty clustered together, but it's kind of away from other things. But there's a lot of kids in it, so they have all their friends over, and they just all go up and down the street. What's really funny though is that our parents' house, Kathy, where I went last night, they are accustomed to getting upwards of 200 kids.
Yes.
On Halloween.
What?
They had less than 30. It was I was shocked.
They had that few?
Yeah, I was shocked.
Oh, wow.
That sounds like our subdivision. Normally, our subdivision is slammed from about 6 o'clock until about 9:30. My kids were some of the last ones on the block, it seemed like, at about not even 8:30. I think it was 8:15 when we were heading back home. And we usually make the rounds and hit just about every house. It was slow. Cold weather scares some people away from that.
It really does.
There was a lot of kids that were actually like giving out the candy instead. They were wearing their costumes and they were at the door and giving out the candy to the other kids. So.
Wow.
Yeah, my kids have actually always preferred that. They enjoy giving other kids candy. They were never that big on going out and actually doing the trick-or-treating themselves, which is, I don't know, I have weird kids. They're good kids, but they're weird kids.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope, nothing wrong with that at all.
What was the best outfit or costume you guys saw?
Oh, I don't know if it was the best, but it was the most, the one that took us by surprise the most. We opened the door and there's these 3 girls. 2 of them were Mario and Luigi, but the third one was dressed up as a baby. So she had like a black onesie, head to toe onesie with a diaper on over top of that, like a big, just like cloth diaper. And this huge, probably 18 inches across by 24 inches high baby's head that was flat, like it was kind of printed out on a big printer or something like that and pasted
like
on
Flat
foam board.
Stanley?
Yeah, but the baby had like that crying face where the eyes were scrunched up and it was screaming and crying. Oh, but when you opened the door and saw that, it was like, holy moly, what is that?
That's good.
Very cool.
Yeah, the best one that I saw was a family. It was their child and the mom and dad that also dressed up, and they did the Lion King theme. The child was Simba, the dad was Timon, and the mom was Pumbaa. I thought that was cool.
That's nice.
That's funny.
You and I saw on the Facebooks, I had like 5 different families, and I don't know why this is the first time I've seen this, but that were dressing up as Addams Family with mom, dad, and then Wednesday. And there was like 5 of them that are pretty close friends, and I don't know what the meta is out there or why that suddenly clicked into a bunch of people's heads, but
the new movie.
The movie came out. There's a movie that just came out. Yeah.
When did it come out?
Yeah, it's an animated, probably a week, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
See that? Okay, now it totally makes sense. Okay.
Do you want to know? You want to know the only reason I know that?
Why?
Is because the recent opening of our church campus is in a movie theater.
Oh, okay.
We are renting space in a movie theater, and I just happen to know that because we see the movie posters every week. So that's otherwise I would have had no idea.
Otherwise, he has no clue.
I haven't been keeping up with that, but yeah, that's crazy. Well, now it makes perfect sense that I was seeing so many Addams Family knockoffs. Okay,
Well,
totally.
There you go. Well, Kathy, what else have you been up to?
Well, I had a birthday recently.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. It was last Wednesday, and I didn't really do a whole lot. Pretty uneventful, but we did go to dinner, me and the hubby. I had a good time. I also took a half day off work to just kind of relax and crochet, which is my other hobby. I love to crochet. So just took a few hours of me time. I intended to try to get a massage. Unfortunately, they were booked. So that's what I did instead.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Gerry, what have you been doing?
Oh my goodness. Trying to finish up my psychology degree, and I've got 2 classes for the next 8 weeks that are just kicking my tail. They are learning psychology and biological psychology. And they're interesting subjects, but my goodness, the professors are requiring a lot. Like, I'm probably writing 2,000 words a week right now. And it's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, it's a lot. And so it's been biting into other parts of my life. The other thing is just I hate candy. That's all I'm going to say about that. I cannot wait till I told my kids they have until Sunday, and then I'm throwing away the rest of the candy or giving it to the troops. Megan said there's some sort of troop giveaway thing. I'm just giving it until Sunday because my kids are holy terrors. And for the last 2 days, my middle child, Toby, has walked in the door from school and said, "Dad, can I have a piece of candy?" Not hello, not hey, Dad. Not literally the first words out of his mouth are, "Dad, can I have a piece of candy?" Which really rankles me.
And I'm sure you never did that when you were a kid.
No, never, ever. I was a perfect angel. Everybody knows that.
This is common knowledge.
This is common knowledge. Come on,
Google
man.
it.
Yep, Google it.
I have a Wikipedia page that says perfect angel. How about you, Dave?
Oh my. I didn't just finish, but I recently finished a 72-hour water fast.
That's pretty awesome.
Holy cow. That was rough, man. I mean, I've done some fasts before, but I've not done a 72-hour one. I actually thought that it was going to go longer than 72 hours. That was kind of my plan, but it was one of those things where, I mean, it's first off, it's difficult enough to schedule something like that when you have a life to live, right?
For sure.
Because it's just tough. I mean, when you have a work schedule and just regular other life and commitments and things. But, it was just another one of those things where, it was something God had been kind of pushing me to do for a while, and I kept putting it off. And then I finally got kind of a wake-up call in the form of a little, not serious, but kind of a health issue that kind of put me over the edge of saying, hey, you need to do this. And oddly enough, that fast cleared it up. And everything's good now. So
funny how that works.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
I mean, God is faithful, and it was very enlightening. I mean, there wasn't like this huge epiphany moment through that, and I don't think that was necessarily the point. But yeah, it was definitely beneficial. So yeah, that was pretty good. And I don't say that to try to be boastful of it in any way, shape, or form, because if you've ever done a fast, I mean, it is difficult, but at the same time, you're not called to be, you're not supposed to walk as if, oh, look at me, I'm fasting, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. That's not what we're supposed to do.
Matthew 6.
So that's not why I bring it up. I bring it up because honestly, I do think that it's something that. Right now, it's kind of in vogue.
Yeah.
Fasting is kind of becoming a hot thing, but people are doing it for a lot of different reasons, and there are some amazing health benefits that can go along with it. But for me, it's more than that, obviously, right? It's the physical, it's the spiritual, it's all of the above. So, if you haven't tried it before, look into it, because there's a lot that can be gained from doing something like that. And I know, Gerry, you recently did one of those as well, too, didn't you?
I did. Mine was a little different. I guess you just did water?
Just water. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So mine was a little bit different. I went ahead and just did a liquid one.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking, I allowed myself some bone broth that we had cooked down the day before, coffee in the morning if I wanted, and tea if I wanted, and water, of course. And that was it. So, and then I did take some BCAAs just as I was working out one of those days, and I didn't want to have any type of muscle atrophy. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I lied a little bit. I did have coffee in the morning. That's
Just
I
black.
can't not have my coffee. Just black coffee. Yeah, nothing in it.
Me too.
But that's how I drink my coffee anyway. So
Me too. So no big deal.
No big sacrifice there.
Yeah. And my green tea is usually just green tea. I used to do some honey. I don't even do that anymore. So,
well, I guess we should probably stop talking about ourselves and start talking about some games, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
do it.
Well, Gerry, what have you been playing, sir?
I get to be first up. Sweet. All right.
Heck yeah, man.
All right. Well, then I've been playing this game. Actually, we as a group have been playing this game, Silver, by Ted Alspach. Bezier Games. It's a 2 to 4 player game. Interestingly enough, it takes place in the werewolf universe, which, I mean, there's so many of those games, the ultimate werewolf games, and, you know, ultimate alien and ultimate vampire, and goodness gracious, the list goes on. They've got so many of those. I love the art on this game. Very cool looking art. It kind of reminds me of like How to Train Your Dragon. It's like they took that kind of idea with the movies of that and slapped it on here, and it looks really sharp.
Yeah, they always do a great job with their artwork on those games.
It's fantastic. Yeah. So it's a card game, and there's a memory element to it, and then there's a card trading element. And the whole goal is you want to have the lowest number of points, and each card has a value on it from 0 to 13, and it has an ability on each card. And the ability can help you, or in some cases can even help the entire table. Usually the lower numbers, because they're also cards you want to keep, because the goal is to be at the lowest possible total card numbers. So you want to have like a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those cards are the ones that will also give you the best benefits for you or for the table. The higher numbers tend to be cards you want to discard. We'll get to that in a second. But you start off with 5 cards, and you're allowed to look at 2 to begin the game. So this is the memory element. So you've got 5 cards. There's 3 you don't know anything about. There's a stack of remaining cards and a discard pile. And on your turn, you may draft a card from either the discard pile or from the top of the deck, and then you have a choice. You can either discard the card, or you can basically put it into your tableau of 5 cards. When you turn in a card, you have the option of turning in a set of cards from your hand. And a set may just be one. It may be one of a higher number that you're just trying to exchange out, or, and this is where you get to have fewer than 5 cards, you can turn in a set of matching numbers, which means that you can turn in, 3 11s for maybe the 2 that you're drafting into your card, which will then leave you with 3 total cards. The whole goal is that you're trying to get down to the fewest number of total points on all of your cards by the end of the round. So the other thing you can do if you're not turning the cards in is that you may discard the card, which means you'll just take the card, look at it, and throw it on the discard pile. When you take the card and put it on the discard pile, there's usually a power associated with that, or an ability. And that power can be things such as look at some of the cards in your hand, which is good if you don't have complete knowledge of what you have. It can be flip over a card in your hand or flip over a card in somebody else's hand. Or they can be, and these are the higher numbered, like 10 through 12s, they can be cards that kind of hurt your neighbor. So you could swap out a card for somebody. You could, so basically take a card from them and give them a card of yours, which gives them, if they're all face down, they don't know what they just got, which kind of sets them back. Essentially, you're trying to get to the lowest number, and then when you get to the lowest, when you think you've got the lowest number, you can call silver, and that gives everybody else 1 additional turn to try and get the lowest number possible. Or, and this is the other fun part, to screw you up. So essentially to give you something to make sure you don't get to go the lowest. And that kind of stinks, but it's also kind of fun. So when the person with the lowest total value on their cards, they win that round. And if that person happens to be the person who also claims silver, they get a benefit, which can either be an amulet or in the expansion can be a bullet, which have 2 different abilities. Interestingly enough, that amulet will then, if you're playing the amulet version, will allow you to be able to basically hold a card. And that card can't be messed with by other players. It's like permanently blocked. It's a good ability. The bullet will actually let you discount that card or not count it in your final count. So when you place a bullet on top of a card, which you can do at any time in the game, it will basically say this card doesn't count for me, which means if you do it perfectly, you could actually have 0. You could actually end up with 0 for the round, which is something you can't do in the first version of Amulet.
That's interesting.
It is pretty interesting, isn't it? I can't wait to play the Bullet. I just got the Bullet this week, and so we haven't had a chance to play it, but looking through the cards, it completely changes the game, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just to round out the version of Silver, I think it's a really fun game. It's played over 4 rounds. It doesn't take too long once everybody learns the game, and has a fair amount of strategy, but it also has a bit of luck that's involved as well. I think some people talking right now might think it has too much luck, but I think it's a good balance.
What?
Yeah, Dave. Throwing Dave under the bus right now. It's fun. So
I can't get you the number of the bus, but I might be able to get you a VIN number or a serial number underneath here.
Hold on, let me back it up again. Hold on. But expansions, as I said, have arrived. And the beautiful thing is that apparently they're expecting multiple expansions. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing, is that this is going to be at least 5 games in this series, possibly more.
Yeah,
that's pretty exciting.
That should be interesting. And so I kind of think of that as like Dominion style, where you can sub in different cards. So these are numbered 0 through 13. And if you like the Bullet number 3, you can use that one and then use all the Amulet version. Or you can sub out 4 or 5 of them or 6 or 7 of them. And just each time the game can be pretty different. And I imagine as the expansions come out, it can be infinitely different each time you play through the game. Yeah,
it's going to be a bunch of the same thing. And you're just going to have an endless combination of different cards you can swap in and out. I think is pretty great. And they're not the first ones to do something like that in a game, but that is really, to me, kind of a clever way of implementing expansions and just, new version. And the fact that each one of them can also be played as a standalone game is pretty great as well.
Interestingly, as I'm going through, and I've just looked at the Bullet cards, but as I'm looking at them, it's a completely different style of game right there. There is more deck manipulation in this game. There's more ability to turn over cards in this particular game. And the higher cards that are usually the mess with your neighbor type cards actually allow for manipulation of discard abilities that are just showing face up. So like if somebody's got a face up card that says this, when you discard this card, X happens, you can like activate that ability by playing a card. And then even though you're not discarding that card. So
wow.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I fully admit that, because we did discuss this game a little bit in a previous episode, that my complaint was that there just wasn't any strategy in this game, and I will backpedal from that and admittedly say that yes, there is some strategy in Silver. Now, in my defense, I never complained about the game not being fun. I was just saying that there's heavy luck involved, and I still adhere to that. I will still say that this game has just a lot of luck. There is strategy, absolutely. Yes, I agree. And it's a lot of fun. I do get frustrated when I just keep drawing crap cards and cannot just seem to get anything to kind of mesh together to where I can start shedding some of those cards out of my tableau, but it never bothers me. But at the same time, it's still an enjoyable game. I like it. I like it quite a bit, actually. It just frustrates me. That's all.
It happens. Kathy, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited to play Bullet. I enjoyed playing Amulet quite a bit. I felt that the strategy was there.
Yeah.
Unlike Dave. I thought there was some strategy. I haven't found a strategy really that works for me yet, but I'm interested to see the different cards in Bullet and play it that way and see if I can find a good strategy that will work for me with those new changes.
Yeah.
I actually think Bullet might actually make it a little more strategic. It sounds like that might be infusing a little bit more strategy with Bullet. Although it's still going to be, if you get the card that works for you, you get the card that works for you. True. And if not, then you don't. But there is typically going to be, with any given card, you do have choices. You can just dump it, or you can hold off to try to do a bigger move later on. So yeah, there's definitely some strategies there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these new cards to see what they add to the mix as well. See how that plays out.
So their number 1, I'll just throw this other one out there, is called the Lycan, and it allows for a +1 on a card. So when you turn in a set, if your Lycans face up, you can have a 4 and a 5. So you can do all your 5s and throw in a 4 as well.
But then do you keep the Lycan?
You keep the Lycan.
Oh, wow. So you can continue to use that. Okay.
You can do that again. So if you get cards that are pretty close in number sets, you could actually like manipulate it. And if you have 2 Lycans, you can do that to 2 different cards, or you can take 1 card and move it up 2 numbers. So yeah.
Here comes the dad joke. I'm liking the sound of that card.
Yeah. That was terrible.
That was terrible. I would edit that out, but I'm not because I'm a dad. So that's how this works.
Only fair.
I have a question. If you mix Amulet and Bullet together, how do you manipulate the decks? Do you have the same, like you have ones from the first deck and ones from the second deck? Or is it that you take certain ones out?
So here's the thing. You can actually, and this is what is recommended at the end of the Bullet instruction manual, is that let's say we play 100% in a Bullet game, and then we take each of the people who are the losers, so if we're playing a 4-player game, each of you gets to choose 1 number, and if you want, swap it out with something from Amulet. And as they get more sets, there'd be more ability to change the game on the fly. So the people who weren't successful can then take like, oh, you know what? I really miss X card from, the Doppelganger. I really miss the Doppelganger from Amulet. Let me switch out 13 and put in Doppelganger. And so then as we go through and play again, it's a different game, and the winner doesn't get to choose the cards, the losers do. So it hopefully gives them an advantage.
Yeah. So you're always playing with the same size deck. You're always playing with numbers 0 to 13. But in any given game, the number 2 cards are always going to be the same card, and the number 10 cards are always going to be the same card.
Yes, 4 of them.
You won't be able to put a 10 from Bullet and a 10 from Amulet and a 10 from whatever the next one is into the same game.
I wonder if that would work.
I guess it would, but I don't think that's
not the rules.
I don't think that's
the rules
was
say you
their
have to
intention.
take a whole set out. So you take the set of 4 or 2, because 0s and 13s are 2s, out, and you replace it from a different set, essentially.
I think I like the sound of that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and as the expansions come out, I think it'll really add to the replayability of the game, and kind of you'll get a feel for the meta of the game.
Well, that's Silver. We all like Silver. It's kind of hot right now. It's actually getting a lot of attention, and from what I understand, they are just selling out of these things like crazy. They can't keep them on the shelves. And it's kind of a thing that Bezier Games does, is they will kind of put out a smaller print run of a game just to see how it does, and if it sells out right away, then they turn around and use those funds to put it back into the next print run and make that a little bigger, and they just kind of keep that snowball kind of rolling, and it works well for them.
That's smart.
It is smart. It's very smart. Rather than doing the whole Kickstarter thing, which, Kickstarter's going to be, that's going to have to be a topic one day that we talk about, Kickstarter.
It can be ugly.
But not,
I agree.
Not today. Not today. So, Kathy, it looks like since, with Halloween being here, the game you were looking to talk about is kind of along those lines, yeah?
We actually have been playing a game called Mysterium. As you said, it's in the spirit of Halloween, and it's a pretty interesting little murder mystery type game. The designer is, I'll try to say, Alexander Nevsky and Oleg Sidorenko by Asmodee Games, 2 to 7 players. It is a cooperative game, and it's a murder mystery, sort of similar to Clue, where you see deduction and you use deduction and you solve a murder. One player assumes the role of the ghost, and the other players are the mediums, so it's a one-to-many type game. The ghost works together with the mediums to find clues to deduce what happened on the night of the murder, and you have 7 hours to solve it. There's a total of 7 turns, and each turn is represented by an hour. Each turn, the ghost gives the mediums vision cards to help the mediums figure out which character, and then which location, and then which murder weapon is involved in this particular murder, without saying anything at all, which is very difficult. I've played the ghost. It's very difficult. When a guess is made correctly, the medium gets to move forward with the next piece of the clue. Mediums guess by placing their player piece on a card that corresponds with their guess, and the other mediums can say whether they think the guess is right or wrong by putting tokens on them to not allow them to see any more of the final clue. All the mediums must discover their individual clues, or the ghost has failed and the murder is not solved. If all the mediums learn their clues, they place all their clue cards on the table and they number them. The ghost then selects one grouping, gives the clue for each piece of the puzzle. The mediums guess what the final clues are by voting after seeing a certain amount of vision cards for that clue. If the majority of players guess correctly, then the murder's solved. So this game is very interesting. It is a lot of fun to play. I really enjoy the feel of the game. I enjoy the picture cards. The vision cards are very interesting. However, with the ghost not being able to say anything at all, it is extremely difficult to be the ghost and try to give clues, because sometimes the cards that you are allotted to choose to give clues to the mediums do not work at all with what you're trying to get them to see. So sometimes you have to go with something very simple, like a color of the card or a feel of the card, or maybe the card is outside and you're trying to get them to be outside or something like that. Very interesting ways to try to manipulate the thoughts of the players to be able to get them to say the right thing. What are your thoughts about this game, guys?
This game reminds me a lot of Dixit. I mean, you've got you're trying to get a feel for a card, and you're trying to get everybody else to kind of think that your card is the closest match, which is the way Dixit is played. But in this case, you're somebody who doesn't get to speak at all. I've had to play the ghost before. I don't remember if we were successful or not. I know I got everybody to the end. I don't remember if we won. But
when I played with you and you were the ghost, we did. We made it to the end.
That's the only time I played as the ghost. So, okay, then we did win. For me, the way it was I had to take first impressions. Like, if I started overthinking what was going on in the card, I'd be like, oh, okay, this feels like, what Dave needs. Bam. You know? I think there was a couple times where I really screwed up, I remember, and it was because I was like overthinking what I'm going to make this card say to somebody, essentially. So it's a real big game about feeling, which I guess works really well with the whole medium and Mysterium and ghost thing. So
yeah. I would agree. It fits with the theme very well. This is one of those where it almost bums me out that the theme is, or the setting is what it is, because I don't know, I don't really get into that kind of stuff very much, but it does work really well for this game.
It definitely fits.
Honestly, I think this is probably one of the best, if not the best game out there that does this type of mechanism. You're right. I think it's fantastic. And because there's so many times in this game where you have those moments that it's like, where you'll just look at a card and go, oh, this is perfect for this player right over here. Perfect. I got you. We got this. I got you covered. And they just are clueless.
No clue.
I mean, as frustrating as it is at the time, that makes for such great moments in a game like this. So yeah, this is definitely, I'd have to say, my favorite in that group of games that does this kind of thing. And yeah, playing as the ghost is very frustrating, but it is also so much and so satisfying when you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun and it's satisfying when you're one of the mediums, but when you're the ghost, it's top notch.
It really is. It is. I gotta say though, you gotta have a good poker face if you're the ghost.
Or you don't have to have. It is a cooperative game, Gerry. I don't know if you know that. So it's totally fine to accidentally give something away.
That's called, if it feels like cheating, it's cheating.
What?
If it feels like cheating, it's cheating.
The one thing that I found difficult in our particular game that we played was, I don't know if you remember or not, at the end of the game, after we did not win, I pointed out that the card for the location that we had for one of the guys we were playing with was the incorrect card for some reason. Luckily, the card was similar enough. It was both outside and both kind of like a graveyard type looking picture that I could still kind of look at my picture without having to constantly be looking at what his picture was. But that was very difficult for me because I was trying to match it with something that wasn't there. So I had to look and see if there was small clues on his card that weren't on my card to try to give him clues. So that made it really difficult.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And this game does have, it's not a difficult setup, but it is easy to mess it up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just inadvertently grab the wrong number, where you think you're grabbing 26 and you actually grab 27 or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And that could hose you up. But like you said, you kind of lucked out that it was a similar looking card, same color background, that kind of thing. So that worked out. But yeah, that's a really good point. The setup is kind of a bear in this one. So yeah, and taking it down is kind of time consuming as well because
did
of the
take a while.
insert and the way everything kind of has to fit back into the box. So yeah, it can be a little bit of a time investment there, but
Lots of pieces to kind of build the board. Yeah.
yeah, but the production though, holy moly.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really good. One of the best, I think, to date that I've ever seen. Just the pieces and everything from the plastic player tokens to the cardboard and the
artwork,
the three-dimensional clock that counts down the rounds and the hours or whatever you want to call it. Really good stuff. And oh yeah, you mentioned the ending of our game. That was pretty great when we played. What is it? So how did that go? We had
Everybody but you only had one card, right? That we could see. Or was it 2 cards?
No, I think everybody had 2 and I had 3.
And you had 3.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So
and did we all guess wrong?
Nobody got
It was
it right.
pretty-
Not a single person
Nobody got
it
it right. Nope. 2 people guessed 2, 2 people guessed 4, and it was 3.
But we did so well up to that point. That's what's funny.
Yeah, we
really
up to that
did
point.
well.
You did.
Yeah.
I thought we were a shoe-in, and and I was convinced that I was right on that final clue.
Oh,
I
and
really
I'm
was.
so surprised that Gerry even made it all the way to the end because I was having the most difficult time finding cards that fit his cards because I, as the ghost, only got 6 cards to look at, or 7. And
Yeah, 7.
7. So when I'm looking at those cards, nothing was even close. So I'd try to give cards to somebody else and hopefully bring some more cards in that would match or be close. Nothing. And I was struggling the entire time. And I'm just thankful that we're on kind of the same wavelength because it somehow worked.
Yeah, but still, I was kind of the last one the whole way. But I was feeling like a dum-dum for a while. I was like, I do not. What is going? I was like, I cannot get this.
It was totally not you. It was the cards.
But you know what? I've noticed that about this game. And because with you, it was Gerry. You couldn't find cards to get Gerry where he needed to go.
Right.
When we played and you were the ghost, there was one player that you had problems with as well.
Correct. I couldn't get him
it
up
seems
the
like
track.
that. I know when I was the ghost, I had the same problem. Maybe it's coincidence, but that's kind of weird. That every time I've seen this game played or I've been involved in a game, there's always seems to be one player that the ghost has a difficult time finding cards to get them where they need to go.
Huh.
I don't know why that is. It could just be coincidence, but
When my brother introduced me to this game, he played as the ghost. I want to say it was me that struggled for the first clue. Got up. It took me a while to get up there, but then it was one of my cousins that just got completely stuck on the second clue, and I think I got mine the first try. And so it was like we switched off who was going to be the one struggling. But yeah, it's funny how that works.
well, like I said, it is kind of a bummer that this game has the setting and theme that it does because I am typically one who really likes to try to get into the spirit of a game and be kind of immersed in what's going on. But I always find myself in this particular game and others like it that I have to pull back from that, right? Just because, I don't know, it's a personal thing. I don't fault anybody else for doing what they do. That's just kind of a personal choice of mine. But yeah, otherwise, everything about this game is just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's Mysterium by Bezier Games.
All right. Well, I have been playing, and we've all played this game. I was lucky enough to play it last night when we were at my folks' house, and that is Decrypto. It's a 3 to 8 player game designed by a very nice French gentleman who I believe his name is Thomas Dagenet Leperance. Let's go with that. I think that's probably close. And it is published by Yellow. So this is a game of teams who are going to play as code breakers, trying to intercept enemy codes to save them from, I'm not really sure, nuclear war maybe? I don't know. This game kind of has that Cold War kind of...
It does.
Vibe where anyway, if you see the art and things like that in the game, you'd kind of know what I'm talking about. But the players in this game are going to split into teams, and what I found is that it's usually better if you have an even number of people on each team. And the players on those teams are going to take turns trying to get their teammates to crack a code by giving them clues to words that are in front of them, all while keeping the other team from intercepting those codes. So in the game, each team will get 4 words, and these 4 words are going to come on cards. And they're going to take these cards and put them into, I would call it like in one of those 1980s style password type cardboard sleeves. So anyways, if you ever played some of those older games from the 80s where you had like that red film, and then if you slid the piece of cardboard, it was printed in such a way that you could only read it when it was behind that red film. Is that making sense? Anyway, I know there was one game back then called Password, which was based on the TV show that was like that. But anyway, that's what these player boards are like, or these team boards are like, right? So you've got words lined up 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And they're numbered that way, and they're going to stay that way for the entire game. You use the same 4 words for your team for the entire game. So now one player from each team is going to draw a code card that has a 3-digit number combination on it, in a combination of the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it could be 3, 2, 1, 1, 4, 2, those types of things. And they're going to write clues on their team paper to try to get their teammates to guess that 3-digit code in the correct number order. And then the teams are going to take turns trying to guess their team's codes. Sounds simple and so far pretty boring. But here's the catch. Guessing your team's code correctly gets you nothing. It's only by intercepting the other team's codes that you move your team towards victory. So how do you do this? Well, you keep track of the clues that the other team is giving for their codes, and they, in turn, are tracking yours. And each round, you're going to get a chance to intercept the code of the other team. And I got to say, that is brilliant. So you just keep going back and forth like this until either one team has intercepted the other team's code twice, in which case they win, or one team has failed to guess their own code twice, in which case they lose. And holy cow, it seems like every time I play this game, I fall a little bit more in love with it. It is awesome. The tension when the other team is trying to intercept your code, it is so good because you have written down these clues. And that's the beauty of this game. Trying to come up with clues that are good enough to get your team to guess the code, but vague enough to throw the other team off. That's it. That is this game. That's what makes it so good. It's just amazing. So this game falls in the category of games to me that are tough to teach, but once you get it, it's super easy. And so far, I have yet to have this game go over poorly. And Kathy, if you remember, I think that's kind of proven by the guy. So I originally saw this game at Geekway to the West 2018. They were demoing it there. I did not get a chance to demo it. But then we went to Origins and we actually did sit down and we were going to partake in the demo. And the guy who was teaching it I could not even follow what he was trying to tell us.
Not at all.
Do you remember that?
Oh, I do.
And I think because of that, I didn't enjoy the demo. I didn't even really understand what we were trying to do. And I think part of that could just be the environment when you're sitting there in this big gaming hall and you've got this guy and I don't know. I can't really blame him, but I kind of feel like if you're going to do that, if that's going to be your job, you should probably be good.
Yeah, I agree.
If I'm yellow, I want the people who are pitching my games to do it well.
Spot on. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't think he did a very good job. But anyways.
Well, and part of it was like Saturday afternoon, I think. So we were a little tired. And I think our brains weren't working as well as we weren't shooting on all cylinders, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's you. Yeah. There is something. I think that's part of it for sure. This game, I mean, is getting a lot of love still. It's been around for, almost 2 years now, I guess. And it's ranked way up there on BGG. In fact, it's ranked number 2 in party games.
Wow.
Number 2.
2
in party games.
That's impressive.
I'm not sure about it being that high.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
But this game, it's amazing, though. It is amazing. It's amazing. Gerry, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I've only been able to play it about 4 total times, twice with 2 different groups. And the first group I played it with, we had similar issue where we ended up with ties quite a bit, and we had to go to the tiebreaker. And it's interesting how that works because you're actually trying to guess the words, which I thought was cool.
Oh, I think that's the best part of the game.
It's hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Then the second game, which was with my my brother-in-law and sister-in-laws, and we were at family vacation. I taught them the game. First, they were really resistant to it because they thought it was too complicated. But once they got it, they really enjoyed it and they loved it. But that one, we were all trying to be too sneaky with our word choices. And my team lost once because we were not giving specific enough clues and they were too confusing. And their team lost once because they mess up the clues too much, which is funny. It was like the other extreme of it where
Wow.
we were so worried about other people getting our clues, we were not even being clear to our own teammates, which is pretty bad.
But that's the brilliance of it. It's that balance, right?
It is.
That balance of trying to make sure your team gets it, but the other team doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Kathy, what do you think?
I really enjoyed playing this game. I thought it was very clever, the way that they have you manipulate the words with the number clues. Very interesting. And it's really cool that even though it was a very difficult game to teach and to learn at the beginning, we were still able to teach our mom how to play, and she loves to play this game. After she got it, it was great. She loved this game. She loves the kind of clue type games anyway, where you have to figure out clues to things. So that deduction and figuring that part out really set well with her. And I really enjoyed playing it as a family. That was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this one's going to be around for a while too. I know it's going to be in my collection for a long time. And there's something about that being able to, when you're able to successfully guess what one of the other teams or multiple of the other teams' actual clue words are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like I am the smartest man alive or person, whatever. So yeah, I would highly recommend this one. If you get a chance to play this, even if you don't like word games, if you just like, party games and, team-based games, I do enjoy team-based games quite a bit. This one's a real winner. That's Decrypto. So this week, friends, we are wanting to just discuss for a little bit a really interesting topic, which I have titled it just lying in board games or lying in games. And should anyone, and with us being Christians, should a Christian or whoever really lie when they're playing a game? And I think the very first thing I gotta just kind of say here is my sister Kathy pointed this out to me as we were kind of doing some show prep for this episode, was when it comes to games, you don't really call it lying, do you, Kathy?
No, I call it bluffing.
Which I thought was a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Just in and of itself. Because, I guess I've always just kind of defaulted to kind of the more general term, and you kind of, being a gamer and playing a lot of poker and things like that, that's kind of where you went with it. And I thought that just right there was pretty interesting.
Because I just don't really see it as lying, especially when it's a game that you're supposed to not tell the truth. It's like, I'm not doing it in a vindictive or nasty way. I'm just manipulating what I'm saying to get the correct result. Bluffing.
So there you go. Discussion over, right?
I did it. I win.
Wow, that was super short. Let's talk about some more games.
Jerry, where do you fall? I mean, what would you kind of classify? Would you call it lying or would you call it bluffing? Or do you think it's one and the same?
I like her calling it bluffing, but I will say that like playing a game which I've probably played, one of the most played games I've played, which is Resistance. I gotta tell you, I straight up call people out on lying. I point at them and I say, you're a liar. And so, or my other favorite thing is you're a dirty liar. You're a dirty liar is what I say to them. So, and then they say, no, the card under here is absolutely a good guy. I promise. And I say, dirty liar, right to their face. And then it gets loud and people throw around accusations and they call me a liar. And, but that's the fun of it.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the game. So in a game like Resistance, you're pretty much lying.
You are.
In a game where you just have kind of a hidden role that you're not saying one way or the other, and other people are just making accusations, maybe it's more bluffing. So if you're familiar with something like Bang the Dice game, if you're familiar with this, so everybody's dealt out this secret roll card, and then on your turn, you're basically just rolling dice and then taking actions with those dice. Yeah. It's the things that you're doing with those actions and what you're doing to other players that would lead them to believe, oh, you're the sheriff, or you're a deputy, or you're an outlaw, or you're a this, that, or the other. And they can accuse you of that, but as long as you're not saying one way or the other, you're not really lying. You might be bluffing, right? So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a matter of depending on the game. But if you have to straight call out, I am this, and that's not accurate, okay, that's kind of a lie.
Seriously, I'm a villager.
Yeah, exactly.
So serious.
Exactly.
So there are types of games where I think lying becomes besmirchment of your honor. I'm trying to remember the name of the game. I think it's Scythe, but in there it specifically says that you can make agreements like I'm not going to attack you type agreements, and those don't have to be upheld. You can betray those. And in games like that, that's going to be a specific, almost a character judgment. Like if you break that going forward in future games, people are going to be like, well, that's the guy that broke the rule in Scythe. You know, he told me he wasn't going to attack me and then he smashed me. And that kind of lying, I think, could look negatively upon who we are in Christ.
Yeah. No, there's something similar to that too in, I think it's Sheriff of Nottingham, where you can bribe the sheriff to not open your bag of goods, and you can say, well, if you don't open that, I'll give you such and such a thing that's in my bag. And the rules specifically say that if you have that thing in your bag, you are beholden to that promise. But if you don't have that in your bag, you don't have to give them anything. So yeah, similar kind of thing where it's like, yeah, it kind of speaks, you know, you start digging into kind of a character thing there. And that's a tough one.
That's where you're starting to dip your toe into like, now you're being dishonest. And now,
right.
Like that doesn't, and maybe this is how it is. I mean, we're supposed to have the spirit inside of us, and lying in Resistance doesn't bother me at all. Lying in, Werewolf, no problem. Any of those types of games. But if I make an agreement with you and I'm playing Scythe, or if I make an agreement with you and we're playing Sheriff of Nottingham, and then I break that agreement, that doesn't sit well with me personally. And if somebody did it to me, I feel like that wouldn't sit well with me personally either.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so far, I don't think I've ever had that happen in a game.
Me neither.
But yeah, that would, I don't know how I would feel about that. I really don't. Maybe I'd have to be in the situation to know how I would react.
Kathy kind of got bent out of shape in Scythe when she got attacked, and it wasn't even like, it just kind of came out of left field. There was no announcement of it, and we hadn't really been doing any attacking. And that wasn't even an agreement. That was just like everybody had been generally leaving each other alone, and then she got attacked, and that didn't even feel good. So
yeah, that's true. And I think, and I know that because of that particular game, that was kind of the next logical step for that to happen. But since no one else had really attacked at all in the whole game, and I was the only one that really got beat up on, that might have been part of the reason why I didn't care for it as much.
I could see that.
I don't know.
You know what's interesting, though? That exact same thing happened to me the first time I played Scythe, and this seems to be a common thread, at least in all the games of Scythe that I've played, is that it always happens maybe once, maybe twice per game. And it's usually, after 2/3 of the game, into maybe 2/3 of the way through the game, because that's one of the ways that you get a start, and it's just going to happen.
Well, it's a natural build up. You build up your mechs and everything, and you get more people on the board, and eventually you're going to have to do that. Yeah,
almost. Yeah,
it's an unfortunate side effect, and I've said it before. It's one of the things in the game parts of the game that I don't care for, but I understand why it's there. I appreciate the mechanism. I think it does need to be there with the game being what it is. It's just certainly not my favorite part of it, and I think you would probably agree with that, Kathy.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like some people aren't going to enjoy games like that have the bluffing or lying element to them, whether it be because of the lying itself or for other reasons, whether those be just moral reasons or just personal reasons or whatever. And I think that's more the issue to me rather than the lying itself being wrong. So I would agree with you, Gerry. I in a game like Resistance or Werewolf, it doesn't really bother me at all. But what is interesting is that there's been a couple times where I have been playing games like this, and I've been in the situation where I had to bluff or lie or whatever we want to call it, and I've done it so well that at the end of the game, I had to take a couple steps back and reflect and be like, what just happened? because it was so effective. One that I had kind of forgotten about, it just popped in my head right now, oddly enough, Gerry, was we were at I shouldn't say this, we were at church. It was actually a men's event, and we were playing what's the game with the coasters? Skull. Yes, thank you. And I kind of had you on tilt a little bit, and you just that's certainly more of a bluffing game than a lying game, right?
Yeah.
But it was that one, and then I think there was one game we were playing Resistance, Kathy, with our whole immediate family. We had like the full 10 people around the table playing Resistance, and I had everybody fooled. Just
yeah, I
horribly.
remember that game.
And yeah, when that game was over, honestly, I felt bad. I really did. I felt bad.
He had me completely convinced that he was a good guy, and I was like, "Come on, Dave, you know it." And I was like all out of shape because I'm like, "You know it's this guy. You know it's that guy. Come on, work with me." And he was not he was the bad guy, and I'm like, I had no clue. I was shocked.
Yeah.
When he said he was the bad guy. I was shocked.
And I did. I felt really bad. I literally, I don't even know how to describe how I felt. I don't know how to describe it. I was ashamed. Oh, I think that's accurate. I don't know. There's something to it.
No, for sure. And, you know, there's a flip side of it as well. You've got those who are not good at lying. My mother-in-law is one of those. She tried to play Resistance with us once, and God bless her, but you just ask her a question and she'd get all flustered and be like, okay, well, I guess I know she's bad. And every single time, I mean, like, she was terrible at it. And you did not want her to be a bad guy on your team because you were going to lose. You know, it was that bad. And God bless her, because that just means, you know, she's just not a deceitful person, I think. And that's great. But I am in the same boat as you. I had one of the people who we play with regularly, Resistance, he's a police officer. He's been doing it for almost 20 years. His job is to be a lie detector. And he turned to me when we had played it like 4 times in a row. He's like, Gerry, I can never tell with you. I can never tell with you. I've gotten it wrong every single time. I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment. And I kind of sat there and I'm like, I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not.
I'd like to piggyback off of what Gerry said about not being good at lying. I don't think that I'm terrible like was it your mother?
Mother-in-law, but yeah.
Or your mother-in-law? Yeah, so I don't think I'm terrible like her, but I typically play these types of games with Dave, and he's my brother, and apparently I have a tell. I don't know what it is, but he can always tell when I'm lying. Not always everybody can tell, but Dave can tell. So I don't enjoy playing them with him because I know he's going to be able to pick me out of a lineup every time. If I'm the bad guy, he knows it. And he knows it right away. So he may not always say it right away, but he knows right away that it's me. And I don't know what my tell is, and I think I'm doing so good. And he calls me out on it every time. And then you have my husband who, bless him, is not good at these type of deduction games because if he's a good guy, he'll like be deceptive, like, and make you think he's a bad guy. It's like he doesn't realize that you're supposed to do. And so he was playing this. So the same game that Dave mentioned earlier, where he was doing such a good job of being a bad guy, I thought for sure he was one of the good guys and Kevin was the bad guy. I just was convinced because I kept saying stuff and he'd go, I don't know, maybe.
Oh man,
and I'm
that's
like,
terrible.
And he was a good guy. And I'm like, oh, I told him afterwards, I go, you can't do that. You've got to be a good guy if you're a good guy. Only when you're a bad guy are you deceptive. And he didn't get that. So I typically don't play those types of games with him because he just doesn't grasp the concept of when you should lie and when you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I don't enjoy playing with Dave as much because he has my tells. So.
And I'll never tell.
There's one final thing I'd probably throw in there, in that while these games I don't think hurt anybody and I don't have any like moral problem with it, you are practicing lying. And I'll give you an example. When my wife first started this, every single time she was a bad guy, you could look at my wife and you'd say, Megan, are you a bad guy? And her cheeks would just turn bright red and be like, oh, she's a bad guy. And that was the end of it. And, you know, we've been playing it for like 2 years now, and it doesn't work on her anymore. She's no longer flustered by that simple question. And so
interesting.
That is interesting.
Increased her ability to lie? Have we made her a better liar through playing this game?
Wow.
That is interesting.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Something to think about. No judgment up or down on that one, but yeah, something to think about.
We kind of have to admit it, right? Everybody has lied. We all have.
Sure.
And if you tell yourself that you have never lied, well, unfortunately, you've just proved my point.
Yep.
You've proved my point. And I don't say that in a derogatory way.
I do.
I raise my hand high. I am guilty as charged, right? This is just something that's part of us being fallen, broken, and flawed people. So ultimately, I think it was beneficial for me anyway to have the experiences that I've had because like I said before, it was enlightening, right? I think I learned a lot about myself and what I'm capable of. But I think I'm now aware that I have the ability to lie effectively, and knowing that about myself, hopefully, will help me to avoid it in regular life. So I guess we'll see. And hopefully that has shed a little bit of light on at least how we feel about lying or bluffing in board games. And, if you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share with us, you can always reach out to us at boardtogethergames@gmail.com. You can send us an email there or hit us up on our BGG Guild page. Go on to the BGG Guilds and search for Board Together Games in the podcast section. You should be able to find us. We would love to hear from you on that.
And we'll read your comment on the air, unless it's offensive.
Is it the air anymore? Is it the air? Do you call it the air
Over
still?
the intertubes?
The airwaves? Over the broadband?
the inner tubes?
Over the bandwidth?
All the inner tubes. We just send these messages through the inner tubes.
We will call you out on the bandwidth.
Yeah.
On all the megabits.
And just
per
remember,
second.
the moral of the story is that it's good for Christians to lie. All right.
That's a wrap.
All right, so far, what have we learned from Gerry and the Board Together Games podcast? It's good to lie, and Ricky Bobby won one. That's what we've learned.
That's right. Ricky Bobby won.
You're not first, you're last.
I'm such a good Christian. I'm amazing.
All right, we need to move on. Okay, so the next thing we wanted to talk about here a little bit, and unfortunately, I feel like I've been doing most of the talking here, but we're going to start doing a segment every once in a while in the podcast called Game Gripes. And what that means is it might be just any kind of subject, whether it be a gaming situation or a publisher or a particular game mechanism or something like that. Anything to do with the gaming hobby that maybe just rubs one of us or all of us the wrong way, right? So in this particular installment, I'm going to talk about an incident that happened, and it resulted in me burning a board game, like threw it in a fire.
Wow.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of just explain why I did this and just give you a little bit of insight as to the lead up. Okay. So I recently burned my copy of Gizmos, and Gizmos is a game that's published by CMON or CMON, one of those two. And I decided to film it and put it on the Board Together Games YouTube channel. And if you would like to watch that, you're free to go to YouTube and search for Board Together Games. You will find our channel, and it should be the most recent upload there. So check that out. So why did I do that? Well, I purchased my copy of Gizmos a while ago now with a lot of anticipation because this game is an engine builder and I've heard a lot of really good things about it. I was very excited to play it. So I got it home, I opened it up and started looking through everything, and I realized that the cards that they included in the game were not correct. So how this game is set up, it comes with 2 sealed decks of cards, and those 2 decks of cards have the different gizmos that you build during the game, and they are from 3 different levels, right? There's level 1 gizmos, level 2s, and level 3s. Well, I had 2 decks, and the 2 decks, instead of being different, were exactly the same. So there was a goof somewhere in the supply chain and the building of these, and whoever was, dropping components into the boxes before they got sealed. And so this was a problem, right? So I've got this game, can't play it. So I emailed CMON and their support people to see if they could help. And they responded via email 3 days later, and they pushed me off to Asmodee, which is kind of the parent company now. And if you don't know, Asmodee owns a lot of these publishers now. They have been purchasing over the last, 5 years now or so, just buying them up. They got a ton of them. I can't list them all, but there's a bunch of them out there. So I emailed Asmodee, and they fairly quickly responded to tell me that they did not have the parts available, but they would let me know if and when they became available again, and they would follow up with me and get me taken care of. I guess firstly, I didn't understand why they didn't have parts available for a game that was very much in print at the time. I mean, I went on Amazon, miniature market, all these different places, stock everywhere. And so that got me a little bit miffed, but it's okay. Because I was anxious to play the game. I mean, I spent good money on this game, right? And I couldn't do anything with it. So that just kind of happened. So I started waiting patiently. And 2 months later, I finally got an email back from Asmodee saying that the parts were no longer available at all. So they advised that I go back to my retailer and return the game, try to return the game, or get this, look into the third-party market, whatever that means, to try to find the components that I was missing or whatever. And I was like, huh? I had a little bit of difficulty believing that they were not able to support a game with spare parts. And I'll get into that a little bit more later, and maybe I'm just jaded, but we'll see. So since I could not I have this game, right? I can't play it. I can't sell it. I can't even give it away. I'm stuck with it. They basically told me, you're out of luck. So what else could I do? I'm like, hey, let's have some fun. I went outside. I built a fire. It was a cool evening, so it was really nice. And I, one by one, threw the components in and burned them. Really because I thought it would be fun. That was really the reason. And I got to tell you, it was. I really enjoyed it.
It's rather satisfying.
It was kind of therapeutic. I'm not going to lie.
Cathartic, yeah.
So, as I mentioned a minute ago, maybe I'm spoiled because I know myself and Kathy, you've had some experiences like this as well, where you've had some things that weren't quite correct in a game that you've bought from different publishers. And we've had very good luck in the past. Right?
Yes, I have.
Kathy, tell your story about what was the one you had in particular? You had a couple of them, but
it was Amerigo,
which is, I'm trying to remember, is that Queen?
Yes, that's Queen Games. So the instance that I had, there are little wooden ships as part of each of the players' pieces, and the white ship was basically like cut off. It looked short, like it looked like it had been cut off the tail end of the ship in, I guess,
a
production.
Defect.
Some sort of manufacturing defect, right. And so it's not like I couldn't use it. It was still flat and you could still use it and move it along the board, but it just didn't look right. So I thought, well, I'll try. So I emailed them and I took a picture, showed them what it looked like, and asked them if there was possible that they could send me a new white ship. And not only did they respond and say, yes, they would send me the new white ship, but when I got the shipment, it was an entire packet of all of the white player pieces. So an entire extra set of white pieces. I guess it made more sense for them to send the whole thing than send just one ship. But I thought that was really awesome that they did that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So, and I had a game called Viceroy, which is published by, I believe it's Hobby World in North America, I think it's the name. And I don't remember all the details. It's been a while ago, but this one really gets me because we were playing the game and I had a drink sitting on the table and I spilled my drink. And I kid you not, this was completely my fault. I spilled water and it got on 3 of the cards. And if you've ever gotten cards wet,
yeah,
they're just never the same. You can try to dry them out and all that thing, but once they kind of...
They're all warpy.
They get all warped and they look weird and that kind of thing. So I contacted the company with this request. I would like to buy the replacement cards for this game. Do you have some spares that I can buy from you? Because I'm happy to do it. This was my fault. And they replied back and said, oh, well, we have them. We'll just send them to you. No big deal. They sent me replacement cards free of charge.
It's amazing.
I didn't have to pay to ship them or anything. So again, maybe it's just the fact that I'm jaded by the fact that we've had these good experiences in the past. I don't know. You guys tell me. Because here's the thing. I am not saying that I'm never going to buy another game from Asmodee or any of the smaller publishers that they now own. I'm not saying, oh, boycott these people. No, I'm not saying that at all. I am truly not. I had a bad experience. And I will also fully admit that I am the type of person, I am just the type of person that I feel like once you've burned me once, I'm not going to give you another chance to do it again. And it's just me. I wouldn't fault anybody else for doing business with them. I don't know. I mean, and there will probably be another game in the future that is an Asmodee game that I'm going to end up buying. I'm not saying that that's something I'm not going to do, but do you feel like that was I being, and not for the burning part, that was all just kind of a fun little thing that I did because I just thought it would be cool. But as far as me and how I felt about how they responded, was it wrong of me to think that they should have tried to do something?
No, I think you were justified in your feelings. I don't really understand the part about where they wouldn't give it to you if it was still in print, fully in print, why they couldn't help you at that point in time. Before the 2 months wait that you had to wait and then say they're not going to help you at all. I just don't understand if it was in print, why they wouldn't be able to help you. Or at least be a little bit nicer, maybe massaging what they were saying to make it seem a little less abrasive, maybe. But I think you were totally justified by the way you're feeling.
Okay.
I also feel that I believe I've heard from other people, I don't have any exact instances, but I know that I've heard before people saying that these game companies, for the most part, are very easy to work with and are very forthcoming in helping you.
Yeah, and I've heard that as well. I have also heard stories from other people that have had very good luck dealing with some of these publishers and getting issues resolved and things like that. So, and it may be hobby wide that just, that's kind of how we've always expected things were going to be. And, we're all gamers, so we want to help each other out. And, now we've got a company who has kind of ballooned into this larger conglomerate, for lack of a better word. And maybe that's part of the issue, because you see it in other industries as well. Any industry, when a company gets so big, they start having real difficulty being able to cater to their customers with that same level of support that they had when they were smaller.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be partly that as well.
Maybe.
I don't think you were overacting at all. I mean, your game was literally unplayable. You couldn't do anything about it. You could not return it. And you were getting no traction from the company at all. I think your only choice was to burn it and hopefully gain a little notoriety while you're doing it. So I think it was funny, and I haven't watched the video yet, but I'm going to go over there and watch it as soon as we're done recording. And I imagine it will be pretty funny.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I had to record it on a cell phone because I forgot to bring the good camera with me. From where it was currently sitting. And I wanted to kind of take advantage of the time that I had to go ahead and do that task when I had it. So yeah, the quality's not amazing, but I think it turned out pretty good considering it was shot on a crappy cell phone. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, what were your other options with that? Seriously.
Well, that's the point. There were no other options. So they left me no other options. Well, and if I'm going to actually put this is what gets me. And this was something that honestly happened literally 2 days ago. So if we had actually recorded this episode when we wanted to, this would not have been something I could have talked about. But here you go. Icing on the cake. 2 days ago. So sometimes I search for things while I'm at work. You kind of get distracted, or you have a little bit of downtime and you want to, search for something personal or whatever. So I was on Amazon and I was looking at a couple games or whatnot. And this was a while back. And so 2 days ago, I get an email in my work inbox from Amazon that says, "Hey, Asmodee has some new games in stock. Click here to see what they are." And I click, and guess what's on there?
Gizmos.
I kid you not. Gizmos, 2nd edition. Buy now.
Oh, did your head explode?
Salt in the wounds. Just salt in the wounds, right?
Was a little Spinal Tap issue? Your head just pop off?
It kind of did. Yeah. I taped it back on.
I'm surprised you clicked on it in the first place.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was morbid curiosity. But no, like I said, I mean, there's going to come a time when a game is out there that I really want, and it's going to be, I'm not going to be able to say no to it. It'll be an Asmodee title, and, but in the meantime, I'm a little upset about the whole thing. And
I think you have every right to be.
I'll get over it.
I think that you not calling for a boycott and being realistic that mistakes are made, Asmodee has, unfortunately, I would say, subpar customer service when it comes to dealing with mistakes that they made. And let's be real, it's a mistake that they made. It's not a mistake that you made. It's not a mistake that the retailer made. It's not like it was repackaged. It happened during their manufacturing process. So this is on them. They need to fix it.
Yep. So, me being the type of person that I am, that's why I was a little concerned. Because, I mean, I've been known in the past to If I go to a restaurant and I have horrible service or I see something happening that I feel like is not good or unsanitary, because I've had that happen multiple times where I've gone to a restaurant and witnessed things happening to food that I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating here. And I'll never go back. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm like, well, you get one shot, and especially when it comes to something unsanitary like that. But it's just kind of always been the way I am. And maybe that's just a huge flaw that I need to work on.
Well, I think this could be considered progress. You didn't burn the whole thing to the ground and proclaim a boycott and that you would never buy it. So, that's you working on those edges and softening them up a little bit.
Yeah, because you did it all in fun.
I may or may not in the past have thrown a Jack in the Box chicken sandwich through the drive-thru window.
That is impressive. Well done. Well done.
Wow.
I had the cops called on me at Burger King 2 months ago.
2 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. Come on.
All right. So
what was it for?
I decided I downloaded the Burger King app and they were like offering me these ridiculous deals to on.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, I know. So to order online. So I ordered online and it ended up being like way cheaper to do that. I got like a double Whopper and like a bunch of other stuff for like $5, and I was pretty excited about it. And I got to the line and it said, go ahead and mark that you're here. So I marked and it said, sorry, and it errored out. And it spit it out and said, sorry, we're not going to accept your order. And I was like, huh. So I'm sitting there in the line already.
What?
In the drive-thru, and I did it again, the exact same order. Spit it out. I get up front and I get to the lady up front and I said, yeah, I have an online order. And she said, yeah, we see 2 of them for the exact same person. Are you Gerry? And I was like, yeah, that's me. But I only need 1 of those. She said, well, that's too bad. You're going to get both of them. And I said, no, you should go ahead and refund me some of that money. And I was picking up my daughter from a friend's house. So she's in the back and I hadn't eaten anything. It was like 7 o'clock at night. And I'm just trying to get something quick. And she says, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I said, so you're going to steal from me? And she said, sir, I do not appreciate your tone. You need to stop right now. I said, wow. And then I went from my like 4 and slightly sarcastic to like an 11. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. You need to stop right now because you're going to steal from me essentially. And she said, you know what? I'm not even going to serve you any of your food and in your money. I can't give it back to you. Call corporate. And I was like, well, now I'm going to sit in this line and I'm not going to move until you do something because this is ridiculous. She said, well, I'm calling the cops. And I said, okay, call the cops.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
This is where this ended up. And like,
because if you don't, I will.
Then she's telling people that like I was cursing and threatening and blah, blah, blah. And I was,
what?
This is what the cop tells me. And I'm like, look, I think I might have let a curse word slip after she told me that I was getting nothing and I was going to like it. But regardless, I was like, I haven't threatened anybody except for I'm going to sit in this line until I get something, either my money back or my food. Yeah. So I'm talking to the cop and he's like, well, at least get out of the line and come over here. And like this poor guy is having to play like in between us. He finally got to the point where he's like, she can give you your food. And she said she'll give you your food, but she will not give you your money back. And I was like, forget it. I want neither. And I called corporate and they fixed it, but just ridiculous.
Wow.
And I will never go back to that Burger King. And the manager of that store called me and that was her daughter. And then she starts telling me the sob story about how her daughter had been having a terrible day. And okay, her daughter, is just having a rough time of life and she's overcome addiction. And like, I get that she's got a rough life and I understand that, but she can't be treating people like that.
No.
And apparently I'm not the only person she's treated like that. She's got multiple complaints. And actually she said, if my daughter gets one more of these, I'm going to have to fire her. And she said,
she should have already done it.
Yeah. She said, I'm not afraid to fire family members. I fired my husband. And I'm like,
wow.
Whoa.
This is crazy. And she's like giving me the whole life story. And
talk about TMI.
I went up there and because she was like, I will at least go ahead and so they refunded me my money. And then she's like, and I'll give you a free meal. And I went up there and I just wanted my free meal of the $5 order I made. And the manager was on duty and she like gave me that free meal. And then my kids were there. Like, she's like, do they want a meal? And so she gave each of them a kid's meal too.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, we're good, but I'm still never coming back here because that's ridiculous.
What? Well, I guess at the end of the day, at least you got something.
I did, but my goodness, I had the cops called on me. My poor daughter, she's in the back, like crying, like, Dad, just leave. I was torn. I was like, do I leave? And she's like, you're going to get arrested, Dad. I was like, I'm not going to get arrested. That's not what's going to happen.
Aw.
Well, and you kind of wonder though about the girl that was giving you a hard time. I mean, if that stuff is true, if those things are true, I mean, that is unfortunate.
It is.
And I do commend her if she has overcome addiction. That's great.
Yes.
But at the same time, again, it's a lot of this just has to do with just common decency and courtesy towards other people, and
especially in a job where you're customer service oriented like that. You can't talk to customers like that.
I know.
In our society, I feel like these types of things just they just fall by the wayside. People just don't pay enough attention to giving their children, I think, these kinds of skills anymore. And that is so unfortunate. So unfortunate. So yeah, it's sad. I mean, I'm glad you ended up, boy, we really went off the rails on this one.
We went off the rails, but oh man, that's
good stuff though. That's a great story. That is a great story.
She got home and she's just like, Dad almost got arrested. I'm like, oh, please let me talk to your mom before you go telling her
the story.
I love the fact that this is the first time I'm hearing the story. That's amazing. That's really good. Oh, it makes my little board game story seem kind of lame compared to yours now.
It was a crazy story. And I will admit that after she told me that because of my attitude or whatever, because I was demanding a refund, that she wasn't going to serve me food, I went to 11 and I was like, well, then I'm sitting in this line and I'm not moving. It was unbelievable. So we're like having this battle of the wills right there in the Burger King parking lot or drive-thru. Ridiculous. Not one of my best moments. I'll admit that.
Man.
That's, we've all had them.
Yeah.
We've all had them.
We're human.
Well, so what have we learned from this episode or this installment of Game Gripes? When it comes to board games, have it your way.
Well done.
Oh, that was great.
Another dad joke.
Oh, boy. I embrace it. I have no issue with the fact that I'm a dad and I got dad jokes for days.
All day long.
Oh, man. Okay. All right, let's wrap this thing up, y'all. We are very glad that you decided to join us again for another episode of Board Together Games, and we really sincerely hope that if you enjoy what you're hearing, that you take some time to let other people know about our podcast. Tell a friend, tell your game group, tell some people that you know. If it's something that you think that they would enjoy, just kind of spread the word for us. We think that's one of the best ways that at this point we can kind of grow this podcast and help get it out there to a wider audience. And speaking of a wider audience, you can reach out to us on all of our social media arenas, right? We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and the handle for both of those is at Board Together, and it's the number 2, so it's BOARD 2 GETHER. We have a BGG guild now. Do a quick search in the guilds for podcasts and search for Board Together Games, and you'll find us there. We also have our website, boardtogethergames.com. And at the end of the day, subscribe to the podcast. If you like what you're hearing, go ahead and subscribe. And probably one of the best ways you can help us is to go ahead and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. So thank you all so very much for listening again this time. And remember, everyone, if you're bored together,
board together.
We will see you next time.
The maker doesn't want it, the buyer doesn't use it, and the user never sees it. What is it?